Today is a big step forward in the journey of Richard Hammond and the Smallest Cog. After much building and testing, they're going racing. The MG is looking fresh with all the brand new sponsors on board, but it hasn't been the smoothest journey to get the car here. This was supposed to be race 2 in the calendar, with race 1 being at Donington, but there it had a bit of engine trouble. And if you want to know all about that, you can watch Richard Hammond's TV show on Discovery Plus. We've put a link in the description below. Just in case you haven't watched the show, let me give you some background on this car. This was the last car Richard ever drove on Top Gear. He bought the car from the production and thought, I want to turn it into a race car. He's done that, and it's now here at Silverstone to go racing. So qualifying is in roughly 20 minutes, and as ever with everything race car, it's all a bit of a mad rush. They've just come from scrutineering and there was a couple of tiny little things that need changed, but the engine man's here, and after all the engine trouble that the MGB's been through, I think they kind of want to get it warming up, considering it's going to be ragged in the next 20 minutes, so bit of a rush. It's immediately gone a bit mental. The announcer has said they've got 2 minutes to get to assembly. So Rick Wood, engine man, and Richard have just pegged down in the MG to assembly. Isaac's got all the kit with them, but Anthony's still back getting his clothes on in the RV. It's going to be an intense session. Richard, I wanted to chat before everything kicked off, but before we've known it, you've qualified.
Yeah, oh man, it was, I cannot tell you what a scram. Oh, it was insane. So, scrutineering, it failed on the belts are the wrong way around. They have to be the right way around because one of them has the label on, they need to see it from that. Right. It's a detail.
Nitpicking.
But we had other stuff to get ready on the car before qualifying. Time was ticking, qualifying's at 10 past, and by 10:02, they're calling everyone for qualifying. If you don't join that queue, you're not racing.
You're not.
But we had to go over to scrutineering and get the ticket to show we'd swapped the belts.
Because of a body label.
Yeah, and so we were over-sorting that, and that's when Rick just said to me, Rich, if you're not in that queue in the car... So they were expecting us to come back to here.
I saw you
that's
just
why I went, no, we've got to get in that queue or we're not in. So we did, last minute got in. Anthony went out and, bless him...
Nailed it.
1:13.02, which fastest he did in testing was 1:15, very nearly 1:16. I mean, 1:16 is where he was sitting.
Yeah.
I think he's benefiting massively from being in traffic because he's with similar paced cars now, and he's all right.
Bit of adrenaline as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. So he's nailed it. Okay. Utterly brilliant. So then we sent Abbie out to deliberately drive slower because we want to qualify on Anthony's time. Because if we qualify on Abbie's time, Anthony's starting the race.
Yes.
So he'll be sitting there surrounded by a load of angry sharks, and it'll be a horrible start to his first race. So he's qualified in his position. He's with another load of similar cars. Overall, we're sitting 19th out of 35 and 5th in class.
That's bloody good going.
So there's 4 cars in class ahead of us and 6 cars in class behind us.
So you could get a podium in class. Don't want to jinx it.
There is a genuine possibility of getting placed in class.
Are you ready for the worst episode of Cribs ever? This is the Smallest Cog RV. So this is where the guys have been spending their race weekend. This is where they've been sleeping. Here's the first little bunk bed situation. We've got Neil underneath, Anthony on top. There's some slippers there. I'm not going to touch them. It smells okay in here. Not horrendous, not amazing, just okay. Over here, we've got a lovely sofa and table set up, and this converts into a double bed. Andrew's taking this one. But up here, this is where the real action is. This is Richard's There's no two ways about it. It's a nest. I'm seeing at least 3 different blankets of differing thicknesses and about 8 different pillows in here. The man definitely knows how to sleep. And then looking around, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4 GoPros. Let's just leave that there. Director Marcus, we knew that the cogs were going to go racing. You're suddenly at the biggest Grand Prix track in the entirety of the UK. It's fairly deep end, both production-wise and for the cog guys. How do you think today's going to go?
Well, I mean, it has been a journey, as you say, and I think it's true of all of us, both from the side of the cogs and Richard, and on the production side, we underestimated.
Okay.
You know, I personally also thought, oh, it's like going out for a nice Sunday day out, isn't it? Perhaps you sort of go a bit faster and somebody wants to get by, you go, oh, here you go. And really,
bit of dicing.
Yeah, a bit of dicing and, oh, yeah, well done, Roger, and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, so I'd got no idea that it was this intense and that people are this competitive. Yeah. So, as you say, we've kind of learned along the way, all of us, and so I guess it's become more and more scary.
Okay.
So I think to some degree we were all sort of slightly cacking ourselves today. You know, what have we taken on? And obviously Donington, that was meant to be our first race 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Big engine problem. And again, that was a massive reality check. Again, it's like you don't just turn up. You're not even guaranteed to start, let alone come anywhere. So I think all of us are sort of slightly pinching ourselves and saying, you know, how did we end up here? You know, this for the cog is probably, well, it's the last chance in this series of actually, you know, getting anywhere in a race. So it's a kind of massive day. Anthony as well, his journey's been amazing from, you know, not bad in a go-kart,
yes,
to actually, you know, potentially being on the grid. And so yeah, this proper, what I love about this series is this sort of proper fairy tale elements to it.
So this is what it all comes down to after all the building and all the prep of the car. It comes down to this first race. Let's see how he gets on. Here we are, race 1, lap 1. I can hear them coming. They'll be down the Wellington Straight in a sec. Go on, Anthony. There he is. He's braking at the end of the Wellington Straight. Get it tucked in there. He's right on the backside of our Mini. Go on, Anthony! Go for it! That is the first job done and dusted. He's got around the first lap. He's in the race. This is what British motorsport is all about. Sitting in a completely deserted stand on an incredibly freezing cold, windy airfield, watching old cars slowly overheat until one really overheats, goes off and causes a red flag. Cheers to that. On this occasion, my energy drink seemed to give me the power of foresight because just 2 minutes later, good news followed by very, very bad news. Abbie swapped into the car from Anthony and she made up a couple of places. They'd got up to around 27th, 28th from 29th after the pit stop, but I've just been told the car has now stopped somewhere out on track. On the transponder, on the timing, there's a little exclamation mark, which means the car's out there somewhere. There is a problem. So they've managed to recover the car, and the cogs and engine man Rick having a proper look at it. Turns out it did overheat to the point where the car cut out. So it's not terminal, just got a bit hot and decided it has had enough. So it'll just be a case of, I guess, getting it back to the cog, having a real diagnosis of exactly what caused it to overheat, and then go from there. Annoyingly, Abbie only got 2 or 3 laps in and she was making her way up the field. Could have been a really good result, but sadly it wasn't to be today. Richard, happy, sad, how did today go?
Well, the day went incredibly well, up to a point.
Yes.
And it was a moment of crashing disappointment. But in that race, Anthony went out and was turning in 114s, 115s, which is exactly what we wanted. Brought it in, downloaded what he'd learned about the car. Abbie went off, we did a quick driver change. She was turning in 112s, but she's confident there's a 110 because she was soft pedaling because of the temperature.
Yes.
And eventually it blew a core plug out the back. Temperature went right up, so she stopped, cut it. Engine sounds fine. But if she can turn in 110s consistently in it, that's proper competitive. That puts us in the top 6 overall, regardless of class.
It's a hell of a start.
So that would be like, ooh, so that's got the potential to be a proper little car.
Okay.
Next season, it will be.
So you're saying next season, I mean, you are a classic car restoration company. Have you now fully got the racing bug?
Yeah, really badly. I think we all have. It's just, I like the way you're lashing it together sometimes. You're fixing stuff with gaffer and tyre wraps and bits of cardboard and aluminium and making it work.
Okay.
And just keep going.
So what is the future of Smallest Cog Racing? Full season next year?
I'd like to do a season next year.
Okay.
I'd like to get this right, and then we'll see.
Well done, everybody, Cogs, family, Rick, Mark, the whole team. And I feel like we've become a team. That's what we've done. We have become a team. So cheers, everyone. Cheers. On to the next race. And we will do it. There will be another race.
So it may not have been the fairy tale first race for the Cogs, but I reckon motorsport has got right underneath their skin and we will see a lot more racing content from the Smallest Cog in future. We have been behind the scenes of Richard Hammond's workshop today, and if you would like to watch that new show, click the link in the description below where you'll head over to Discovery Plus, and trust us, it's one of the best shows out there right now. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I've been Mike, and don't forget to subscribe to DRIVETRIBE.